Mr. Larkin, we are going to continue the direct examination. Want to come back up here and take a seat?
Your Honor,
Yes.
and with the court's permission, I have a little difficulty, I think, being heard standing up. So with the court's permission, may I be seated and ask some questions? Thank you.
This courtroom is sometimes hard to hear, so that's fine. Yes, sir? All right, go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Mr. Larkin, you're still under oath from yesterday. Yes, sir. And I did ask you if Mr. Pelton had a reputation for violence, but you didn't answer whether he had a reputation for violence. Did he have a reputation for violence?
Yes, he did.
And there was a discussion about your being at the window of Mr. Pelton's car on the evening of May 12th, 2022. And
Browning, I didn't hear the word that you said. Could you ask that question again?
certainly, there was some discussion, pardon me, let my asthma get in the way. There's a discussion yesterday about your being at the window of Mr. Pelton's car on the evening of May 12th, 2022. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And you also remember that yesterday you told us there was a time previous to that where Mr. Pelton had shown you where he kept his gun when he was in his car. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And in relation to where you were at the window of the car, where was it that he had shown you where he kept his gun in his car?
Right between his driver's seat and the center console.
And you're making a motion with your right hand?
Yes, sir.
Would it have been, are you saying that it was close to where his right hand was
Yes, sir.
when he was, when the two of you were having your argument or discussion, whatever you want to call it?
Yes.
So as you were walking away from Morey's window, and you heard him say that he wasn't afraid of you, did you hear anything that gave you concern after that as you're walking away?
Just when he opened the door and slammed it in the side of Kelly's vehicle.
Or did you hear something when he did that?
He slammed the door into the vehicle, and I could hear some gravel crunching as I was turning.
Okay. And what did you think when you turned around? How did you feel? What was your reaction?
I was fearing for my life right away.
And when you turned around, could you see his eyes?
Yes, I could. I could see his whole face.
What did you think when you saw his eyes?
He was enraged. He had spittle on the side of his face, and his eyes was enraged.
Was that the first time that night that you've been in fear for your life?
Is that, excuse me?
Okay. I should ask it a different way. When was the first time that evening that you were in fear for your life?
When the door hit Kelly's rig and I heard the gravel.
What did you think he was going to do at that time?
Shoot me.
Let's go on. Yesterday you talked about a few things. Let's move on beyond that. Did you believe you could beat Morey in a fist fight?
No, absolutely not.
With Morey in the state that you saw him, did you believe that he could beat you up whether or not he had a gun?
Oh, without a doubt in my mind.
With Morey being high on meth, how likely do you believe Morey would have stopped beating on you at any point?
He wouldn't have. Gerald and Buckskin wouldn't have had a chance to even get him off.
want to talk just a moment about the gun that you had that night. You said that you got it from the son of a fellow iron worker.
Yes, sir.
And what was that man's name?
His Whitey Britton was the father, but it was Jeff Britton.
Jeff Burton. After you bought that gun from that fellow, did you fire it?
No,
Did you clean it?
no.
Did you intended to keep it for any length of time?
Just till he came up with the money to buy it back.
When you acquired it, had you ever intended to fire it?
No.
How did you get rid of that gun?
I threw it in the dumpster at the covered wagon.
When did you do that?
I did it that Friday night.
Was that, just so we're clear, is that on the night that you shot Morey, or was that the next night?
No, it's the night I shot him.
The night? When you saw Kelly Hinks back at your house after you shot Morey, did you tell him why you shot Morey?
Yes, I did.
And what'd you tell him?
I told him I seen a gun.
You thought you saw a gun?
Yes, I did.
You understand now that Morey was not found with a gun?
That's what I understand, yes.
How long after May 12, 2022 was it that you attempted suicide?
I'm thinking of 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks.
And then after you were out of the hospital, were you contacted by the Bonneville County Sheriff?
Yes, about 3 to 4 weeks after that.
And during the 3 weeks that you were out, where did you stay?
I stayed with my oldest daughter, Chastity.
And were you at Chastity's house when you got the call from the Bonneville County Sheriff?
Yes, I was.
What happened when you spoke with that person from the Bonneville County Sheriff? What do you want you to do?
I didn't speak to him, my oldest daughter did. And they asked if I would go down to Chubbuck Police Department and turn myself in.
And what did you do in response to that?
I went to Chubbuck Police Department, turned myself in.
Didn't have to drag in kicking and screaming?
No.
So at this time, how long have you been in jail on these charges?
2.5 years.
After May 12th, did you ever go to the state of Washington?
No, sir.
Did you ever send anyone to spy on Gerald Hamlin?
No, sir.
Just so we're clear, was Morey Pelton fully seated in his car when you fired one shot from your gun?
No, he was not.
Did you bring a gun with you on May 12, 2022 to execute Morey Pelton?
No, I did not.
Did you bring a gun with you on May 12th, 2022 to rob Morey Pelton?
No, I did not.
Did you have any plan to physically attack Morey Pelton in any way on the evening of May 12, 2022?
No, I did not.
Did you threaten anyone on the night of May 12, 2022?
No, I did not.
Did you threaten anyone after May 12, 2022 in any way?
No, I did not.
Have you told the truth here today, Randy?
Excuse me?
Have you told the truth in everything that you said today and yesterday, Randy?
Yes, I have. I have.
That's all questions I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Larkin, I'm going to go over just some basics. So the shooting that we've been discussing, that occurred on May 12th in 2022.
Could you speak up?
The shooting that you were involved with involving Morey Pelton, that occurred on May 12th, 2022.
Yes, sir.
You don't dispute that fact.
No, sir.
That occurred in the state of Idaho.
Yes, sir.
You don't dispute that fact.
Excuse me?
You don't dispute that fact.
No, sir.
And you engaged in conduct which caused the death of Morey Pelton.
Yes, I do.
You don't dispute that fact.
No, I don't.
You acted without justification or excuse.
Could you repeat that?
When you you gauged that conduct which caused the death of Morey Pelton, you did so without justification or excuse.
No, I don't.
So you
No.
dispute that fact.
Yes, I do.
All right. And when you acted, you pulled the trigger intentionally.
I don't understand what you're asking.
When you shot Morey Pelton, you pulled the trigger intentionally?
To fire the gun?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
And you understood that pointing the gun and pulling the trigger at that point was dangerous to Morey Pelton?
Yes, I did.
And that you deliberately pulled the trigger even with that knowledge that it would potentially end his life?
I'm not understanding that question.
Sure. You deliberately pulled the trigger despite the knowledge that that act was dangerous to Morey Pelton's life.
At the time, I did not have that in my mind. No.
You didn't realize that pulling the trigger would be dangerous to Morey Pelton's life?
I was protecting myself.
Right. By pulling the trigger of the gun while it was pointed at him,
Yes,
and you knew the consequences that could occur by shooting him basically in the head, right?
I had no clue where the bullet was going. I just pulled it and shot.
All right, but you understand that shooting someone can be dangerous to their life.
Oh, yes, sir.
Don't dispute that.
No, I don't dispute that.
Now, is it your testimony today that when you drew the gun and pointed it at Morey Pelton, that you pulled the trigger intending for that bullet to strike him intentionally, correct?
To stop him from coming at me and pulling a gun, yes.
Okay, so this wasn't something that was unconsidered or rash, right?
Excuse me?
This wasn't just a rash decision. This
No.
was something you thought about.
No, it was nothing I thought about.
Well, when you pulled the gun, you thought you saw a gun, correct?
Correct.
And so you made a rational decision. I need to shoot this gun to protect myself. That's your testimony?
Object to the form of the question because you first asked the question about rash, and then he changed the word to rational. And I believe that that is confusing. I just wish the prosecutor to clarify what he's asking the witness, that's all.
Wait, those were two separate questions. Go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, now what was the questions again, sir?
All right, when you pulled the trigger, it was because you thought he had a gun, correct?
That is correct, yes, sir.
That was a rational choice, right? You said it's either him or me, right?
I don't think it was rational. I think it was just, it was not rational. I think it was just to protect myself.
Okay,
You know, there wasn't no time thinking. This only happened in a couple seconds.
right. But your decision to pull the trigger wasn't based on something that he said that provoked you. Is that correct?
No, I did not.
It wasn't out of anger, correct?
No, it was not.
And so when I say it was rational, it was something you considered in your mind was necessary, right?
I didn't want him to shoot me, no.
Okay, you're not answering my question. Was it something that in your mind you believed you had to do?
Yes, I'm sure it did. Yes.
You considered that in your mind, right?
I'm sure, yes, at the time, yes.
But you certainly didn't just respond to becoming suddenly angry. Is that right?
Excuse me?
You,
Form of the question, Your Honor, whose anger?
Overruled.
you didn't pull the trigger because you became suddenly angry, right?
No,
Very well. So during this, this trial, you've been here during every witness, right?
yes I have,
And you've heard the testimony.
yes I have.
So let's go over what Britta Jackson said. She said that you were asking almost every week if she had seen Morey Pelton. Is that true?
That is true.
And that more than once, you told Britta, you have no idea what I'm capable of.
That is, I did not say that, no.
Okay? 4 days before you shot and killed Morey Pelton, you texted to Britta, really don't need to go to jail right now, knowing exactly what I will do. Don't want the expense of sending someone else. You picked the wrong time to play.
I don't recall that at all.
You're not denying it.
No, I'm not.
And then after the shooting, you texted Britta and you told her, I should have known that one of the Jackson sisters would rat me out.
I don't believe I just did that, no,
You don't believe?
no.
Is that you don't recall, you don't remember, or you are denying it?
I'm denying that, yes.
Chris Hansen testified that a couple of days after the shooting, that he confronted you and that you responded to him that you denied that you had shot Morey. And then you said, I would never do anything like that. Is that correct? Or are you denying that?
I deny that.
You didn't say that to Chris Hansen.
I did not say them words to Chris Hansen, no.
Them words. So are you saying you said something similar to it?
I told him I did not murder Morey Pelton.
Kristen Davis testified that before the shooting, you said, all I would have to do is make a phone call and Morey Pelton would be dead. Are you denying that you said that?
I am denying I said that. I believe is when I had a group of people, all he had to do is give me a phone call.
So you think what she heard was all he would have to do is make a phone call, but then she says, and Morey Pelton would be dead.
No, no, she didn't.
When you were in the hospital, your daughter was there. She testified. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember testifying, yes.
And you told her that you had made a mistake and you had shot somebody.
I do not remember anything in the hospital.
So you don't deny that statement.
No, I don't. I don't recall anything when I was in hospital.
And then she said that the guy said that you were old. You don't remember saying that to Chelsea?
No, I do not.
But you do remember a statement like that being made by Morey Pelton?
Oh, yes, I know what he said. As I was walking away, yes.
All right. So Billy Buckskin or William Burton testified that when you spoke to him about Morey a couple of weeks before the shooting, that you mentioned that Morey owed you money.
I mentioned to Billy that Morey owed me money.
And he said that you were angry about it.
Yes, I was angry.
And he said that you wanted to beat the shit out of Morey.
I would not have said that. I might have said I'd like to beat the shit out of him, but look at me.
And then about mid-afternoon on the day of the shooting, the conversation turned to Morey again, and Buckskin said that you were mad on the day of the shooting. That sound correct?
No, I wasn't mad.
Okay.
I was kind of happy we were going out.
So you deny that you told William Burton on the day of the shooting that the kid owed you money and that you wanted to beat Morey up.
No,
You deny that.
I deny that.
Burton testified that on the way to the rest area, you said you wanted to beat Morey up and wanted to shoot the son of a bitch.
No, I did not.
You're denying that.
Yes.
Burton testified that after you got back in Hamlin's vehicle, he asked what's going on, and you said, keep your mouth shut, don't say anything. Do you deny saying that?
I deny saying them words.
Did you say something similar?
Yes, I did.
Okay, what was that?
I said, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, Gerald Hamlin stated that you asked him for a ride to meet someone. Is that true?
That is not true.
You deny that.
I deny that.
And then he said that your vehicles weren't running right. Is that true?
No, I got a MKZ Lincoln. No, my vehicles run very fine.
So that wasn't the reason you asked for, or I shouldn't say, why you rode with Hamlin.
Excuse me?
That wasn't the reason that you rode with Hamlin.
No, it was not.
While you were at the covered wagon, you were waiting for a phone call for someone to tell you where to go in Idaho Falls.
I was waiting for Kelly Hinks to meet me there.
On the way to the rest area, you said there was a change of plans after receiving a call or text.
Yes, that was after we passed the rest area.
At the restrooms, he says that you and Burton were talking about you beating Morey up, taking his drug, and the money he owed you.
No, that is correct. Incorrect.
You deny that.
I deny that.
Gerald Hamlin testified that after the shooting, you got into his vehicle. Burton said, and then you said, you admit that.
Yes.
Hamlin testified that during the drive, you told them, keep your mouth shut. Snitches they find in ditches.
No, I did not use them words.
What words did you use?
Shut the I don't want to talk about it.
You never talked about snitches. You deny that.
No, I deny that.
Hamlin also testified that after he arrived in Arizona, you contacted him and you told him to keep quiet.
No, I did not.
You deny that?
I deny that.
I just have one moment. So, while you, Mr. Hamlin, and Mr. Burton were at the covered wagon, you were waiting for a call from Kelly Hinks, is that correct?
No. I was waiting for Kelly to come. He was still in the RV park.
All right, so you had no phone call at that point.
Not that it involved Kelly, no.
All right. And then you decided to leave the covered wagon.
Yes, my bartender came up and said we were out of toilet paper and paper towels.
And then after you had left, then you got a phone call from Kelly Hinks, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And Kelly provided you some additional information.
Yes, he did.
What phone did he call?
He called my phone.
All right, and so that should show up on your call records?
Yes, it should.
And what phone did he call you from?
I'm adding his.
That calls for speculation.
Okay,
I'm
let
gonna
me rephrase.
overrule this
All
one.
right. Did you, when you saw the phone call from Kelly Hinks, did you have it come up on your phone with his name?
I have no idea. If it rang, I answered it.
All right. And did you ever turn your phone off?
No, I think the battery went dead.
So while you were in the area of the arrest area, your phone went dead.
I don't recall.
All right. Well, tell me why you made the statement, I think it went dead.
Because I know it was when I got to town.
When you got to which town?
When we got back to Swan Valley.
The phone was dead.
Yeah, because the bartender showed up at my house and said, I've been calling you.
And you weren't answering the phone.
No.
All right. So it's not that you had turned the phone off, you're saying that the phone had died.
I know the bartender couldn't get a hold of me because my phone was dead.
All right. How soon did you get it recharged?
I'm not sure.
Okay, did you do it that night?
I'm
Well,
not sure.
Your Honor,
Well, this is cross-examination. I'm talking about the veracity of this particular statement it's making.
well, the question's relevant stuff.
Uh,
The conversation's done.
And I'll bring that up here in a minute because we have some issues with the phone records.
Court of law, go ahead.
All right. You're saying that the phone was dead at some point while you were at the rest area where the shooting occurred. Is that correct?
It went dead from sometime later that evening because the bartender tried to get a hold of me. That's when I knew it was dead.
All right. However, shortly after you got back to Swan Valley, you made a phone call on that phone, right?
I'm not sure, no.
You didn't call your daughter.
I'm not sure.
If it's on the phone record, though, you wouldn't dispute that.
No, I would not.
So shortly, say within 45 minutes of the shooting, you called your daughter Charity?
If it's on my phone records,
Okay.
then from that time, it died on me.
All right. Kelly Hinks, in his grand jury testimony, said that he told you that, and this was before you folks left, that he was going to meet Morey Pelton at the rest area.
No, when he came around the RV park, he did not say that.
All right, so you deny that.
I deny that.
Are you familiar with a Carlos that lives in a cabin at the covered wagon?
Yes, I am.
And was Carlos there with you?
No, he was not.
And Kelly Hinks, to your knowledge, knew who Carlos was?
Yeah, they weren't friends or nothing, but he knew.
And do you have any reason why he would say Carlos was there with you?
Speculation, Your Honor.
I'm gonna allow, that was one of the questions from.
Now, excuse me?
Do you have any reason to understand why Kelly Hinks would say Carlos was there with you?
Only that Carlos has a silver Subaru SUV looking vehicle.
So now, weeks after the shooting, it's your understanding, did you talk to Kelly Hinks about who you were with?
No, I did not.
And did Kelly Hinks and Gerald Hamlin ever meet up after the shooting?
No,
And so you didn't tell him who you were riding with.
no, I did not,
Why not?
because I hadn't talked to anybody.
Did you have a conversation with Kelly Hinks in the lower parking lot before Morey Pelton arrived?
I did not.
Did you see, in other words, were you in Mr. Hamlin's car? Did you go down to the lower parking lot before Mr. Pelton left?
No.
I'm sorry,
Excuse me?
before Morey Pelton arrived.
Excuse me?
Before Morey Pelton arrived, did you drive down into the lower parking lot and see Mr. Hinks by himself?
No, I did not.
You deny that.
I deny that.
What side of Mr. Hamlin's car was closest to Mr. Hinks' car and Mr. Pelton's car?
The passenger side.
So when you parked, or when Gerald Hamlin parked, then it was with you on the passenger side facing those two vehicles.
Yes,
So when Mr. Hamlin says he went up, made a U-turn, and came and parked along the grass, you deny that.
I deny that.
Now, Mr. Hinks says that Morey said something to the effect, what, you brought a gun? You admit that happened?
Yes, I do.
And he said, hey, don't put that thing up before somebody gets hurt. Quit bucking around.
Yes.
That's what he said.
I recall Kelly saying that, yes.
And then in reply, Morey said, you think I'm scared of you?
No, that didn't happen right then.
All right. So was there some more talk before Morey said something similar to, you think I'm scared of you?
Yes, there was a little bit of conversation there, yes.
Okay. And you're not denying the words that I just told you that Mr. Hinks said to you.
No, I'm not denying that. That's why I turned around and showed him my hands.
Mr. Hinks says that it was light outside at the time this happened. but that was not true, correct?
No, it was dusk, late dusk.
Now, do you admit that you drove down into the lower parking lot and was down there with Mr. Hamlin, no other vehicles for about 5 minutes?
Yes,
What were you doing?
just waiting for Kelly and Morey. That's what Kelly said they was gonna meet.
What was the lighting down there when you were there?
It was dusk.
How about street lamps?
No, I don't believe I remember seeing any down
All right, Mr. Hinks testified, I heard Morey say, "I'm not scared of you." And then at that time, it says seconds later, Randy turned and going back toward Carlos' car, Morey gets out.
there. Yes,
You say that happened. He got out of the car.
that's when I heard the slam of his door.
He took about 3 steps. Morey took about 3 steps.
No, that's not correct.
You deny that happened.
I deny that.
It says Morey turned back around and walked back to his car. You deny that.
He's got the chain of events not correct.
Okay, you deny that happened.
I deny that.
And then he turned around again and started heading towards Randy. You deny that happened.
I deny that.
And then that's when Randy shot him.
I deny that.
He got shot and he kind of spun around. He took a step back toward his car, a couple of steps, and then fell down. You deny that?
I deny how them chain of events happened. Yes, I do.
He says, they asked the question, did you have any discussions with Randy about the shooting? And he said, yes. Are you denying that?
When did that take place?
Well, I'm reading, well, is it your testimony that you had no further conversations with Kelly Hinks
After that night?
after that night?
No, I did not.
You had one conversation with Kelly Hinks and no further.
No further.
All right, you remember we presented some text messages. Lieutenant Graham here read those. Do you remember those
On
during this trial?
what text messages?
All right, let's go ahead and pull those. Well, it's not working. I want to go by your memory. So there was a reference to 10,000 on that text message. Are you saying that Morey did not borrow $10,000?
Your Honor, can I ask which text message from whom to whom? And we'll let work this foundation, please.
All right, let's move on. Did you loan $10,000 to Morey?
No, I did not.
All right, and then you're saying there was some other amount that you loaned him.
Yes, I am.
And what were the conditions of that loan?
That he paid me back within a month.
And what would you get out of it?
I've got a free ounce of methamphetamines.
So, in your testimony earlier, yesterday, you were asked, what was it for? What was the loan for? Do you remember that conversation with counsel?
He needed it so he could come up.
All right. And when you say he could come up, what does that
I assumed that he could buy drugs and make money and come up.
I don't understand the term come up.
I don't really myself, but that's what he told me.
Okay. And in exchange for this loan, you expected to receive an ounce of drugs?
Really, what I wanted was the animosity for him that he had on me to stop.
Okay, but your testimony just a few, less than a minute or two ago, was that you were going to get an ounce of drugs. Is that correct?
Yes,
And what kind of drugs?
methamphetamines.
Did Morey ever give you the methamphetamine?
No, he did not.
And did Morey tell you he was going to get some drugs from a guy down south?
Yes, I assume that's where he always went.
Okay. This was not your guy,
No, this was not my guy.
so you deny that.
I denied that.
So when you were communicating with Morey, were you trying to get drugs from him in the text messages leading up to the shooting?
Yeah, I asked him for some. Yes, I did.
Was that because you were having difficulty getting drugs?
Well, he had $4,000. I didn't want to spend no more.
But you also were asking about drugs, correct?
Yes, I was.
Were you having difficulty getting drugs?
Yes, I was.
How long had it been prior to the night of the shooting that you had been able to acquire some drugs?
Probably a week.
All right, and let's talk about, so you've already admitted that you use methamphetamine, correct?
Yes, I do.
Would you consider yourself an addict?
I consider myself a maintenance user.
A maintenance user? And
Yes.
how often do you typically use methamphetamine?
I'd snort a couple lines when I had to work in. Could we have context here, because he's been in jail for 2.5 years. He's asking about the present. Could we maybe have time context? I think it'd be more appropriate.
Also speak up.
Well, we're talking about your use of methamphetamine. You haven't used in jail, right?
What?
You haven't used in jail. You haven't
No,
used-
no, sir.
So we're talking about the time frame where you were using methamphetamine.
Yes,
And that included up to the time of the shooting, correct?
that's correct.
And you said that you were a maintenance meth user.
Yes.
And I'm asking you to explain what you mean by that statement.
I would snort a line, or more than likely, I would sprinkle a little bit in my coffee. And it wasn't a daily use. I prefer marijuana.
How many firearms do you own personally?
I have my grandfather's old Oxygon 30-30, and then an Oxygon 22. I got my very first shotgun, a single shot 16 gauge, and then an Italian 6.5 rifle, which was my very first rifle.
Those are all rifles?
Yes, sir.
And how about handguns?
I had a 22.
All right. And then a week before the shooting, you purchased a handgun from Jeff Burton.
Oh, I purchased that handgun right around the holiday season. I'd had it for a couple, 3 months.
All right. Your testimony was that Mr. Burton had attempted suicide or was contemplating suicide?
Yes, contemplating. He had it on Facebook and was telling his girlfriend.
And And so you're saying that somewhere around Christmas,
It was after New Year's,
all right, after New Year's.
January sometime, yes.
And so you would deny that that purchase occurred within a week
Oh, I deny that, yes.
of the shooting? You would deny that it occurred within a month of that shooting?
I deny that, yes.
Now, Hamlin drove to your residence in his SUV, is that correct?
Excuse me?
Hamlin drove to your residence in his SUV.
When he first showed up,
Well,
when did
the
you
day
talk?
of the shooting, he went to your house, right?
Yes, from Washington.
And you hadn't seen him prior to that.
No, I had not.
And so he pulled up to your house in a light colored SUV, is that correct?
Yes, I assume so. I wasn't there when he pulled up.
When you got back to your residence, you saw that Hamlin had an SUV, a light colored SUV.
Yes, sir.
And did you notice whether the plates were from Idaho or from Washington?
I don't recall.
All right. And you would admit that it was very unlikely that Morey Pelton would know that vehicle, right?
That was no concern.
Then you admit it,
That what?
that Mr. Pelton would not recognize that vehicle?
Calls for speculation, Your Honor.
I'm gonna allow the answer.
I don't think anybody would recognize it.
All right. Then you testified that you got into Hamlin's SUV because it was the vehicle that was the farthest out from in your driveway or on your property somehow?
He was pulled in behind my black Lincoln, and Billy was coming out dressed. He was ready to go, and Hamlin says, "Oh, hell no, I'm driving. I ain't gonna get stuck in town with you two." So that's why he drove.
All right. So you're saying that Hamlin drove because he refused to go with you two to IDAHO Falls because,
We were going to go have a good time. And he was gonna leave the next morning, so he didn't want to be stuck without his vehicle.
And how are you dressed?
How am I dressed?
How are you dressed?
I was dressed in jeans, shirt, and I changed my overshirt. I had a t-shirt on, and I opened my trunk, which had a basket of clothes there from the day before when I worked at the bar. I did my clothes. I switched shirts to a corduroy button-up shirt.
And your testimony was that when you went into that laundry basket, that was when you realized that the gun that you had purchased from Mr. Burton was in there?
Yes, it was sitting right there,
Or is it right there?
sitting in the back by the fender well.
Okay, and you say it was wrapped up in a shirt?
No, it was wrapped up. It had a bunch of straps on the holster. It was wrapped up in the straps.
And you took the gun out of the holster,
No, I took the whole holster and everything.
okay? And then you went and got into Hamlin's SUV.
Yes, I did.
Did you wait at that point for Mr. Burton to come to the vehicle?
Burton, when I got seated, Billy was coming to get in the back seat on Gerald's side.
Okay, and where was the holster when you climbed into Mr. Hamlin's vehicle?
I put it between the door and it'd be my right foot on the floorboard.
And would Mr. Hamlin have seen you climbing into the vehicle with the holster?
I don't believe so. He was unhooking his little trailer and putting it off to the side of my little turnabout.
Did you tell Mr. Hamlin or Mr. Burton that you had a gun with you?
No, I did not,
Why not?
because I didn't think it was relevant. I didn't think it needed to.
Oh, okay. So why did you pick up the firearm and take it to the SUV?
So I'd have it with me.
Why did you need to have it with you? You were going to a party, right? You were going
Yes.
to a party.
Yes.
Why did you have to have it with you?
Well, because if I had met them all at the dollar store and Morey got wild, I was going to protect myself.
So you feared that Mr. Pelton would become what?
He would be violent.
You feared that he would become violent at
Yes.
the dollar store, and so you had a gun to protect yourself.
Yes, I did. I took a gun to protect myself.
If you had that concern about Mr. Pelton being violent, why didn't you express that to the two people that were going with you to the dollar store?
I really didn't want to involve anybody.
But by having them drive you to this situation you felt was potentially dangerous, you were involved in
They weren't driving me to that situation. If we ran into them at the dollar store, that would have been perfect,
that. How would that have been perfect?
because it was in a public place. I could have came out holding toilet paper and paper towels to where it didn't look like Kelly set something up, and I could ask Morey what the hell was going on.
All right. That was your understanding before you got into Mr. Hamlin's car, right?
Yes,
So why would you be concerned that you would need that gun?
Asked and answered, Your Honor.
because everybody has a gun.
All right. During the drive towards the dollar store, were you expressing frustration that Morey Pelton had not paid you back to Mr. Hamlin and to Mr. Burton?
Yes, because of the rumors that Morey's been saying with Britta and Keegan.
And what was the purpose for you to tell Hamlin and Burton about your frustration?
I don't understand the question, sir.
Why did that come up in the conversation?
I don't recall coming up in a conversation.
Well, maybe you misunderstood the prior question. The question was, during the drive, did you express,
Hold on 1 second.
I'm sorry. Oh, God. It's not supposed to do this. Okay. I beg your pardon, everybody. I'm so sorry. I can't get it.
We'd have to have you step out.
Okay, it stopped. I'm sorry. It's done.
I asked, during the drive, did you and Mr. Hamlin and Mr. Burton talk about your frustration that you hadn't been paid back by Morey Pelton?
No, I didn't mention none of that, no.
So you deny that?
I deny that.
All right. In relation to when you learned that it was going to be at the rest area, how far were you past the rest area when you found out that something had changed?
I believe it was halfway between Ririe and the rest area.
And you're denying that you had any kind of second phone with you?
No, I did not.
Have you and Kelly ever communicated with each other using some other phone than your primary cell phone, like a burner phone?
I don't believe so, no.
You certainly haven't done that.
No.
And then, when you arrived, you went down, immediately to the lower area. Do you remember that?
Yes,
You went in fact, you went through the east entrance, the entrance closest to Swan Valley. Do you remember that?
that'd be the second time we came to.
All right. And then you immediately drove down into the lower parking lot.
No,
Where did you go?
the time we came through the east end, we went right to the bathroom.
So you're saying that the very first time that you drove in to the rest area, that you went and parked next to the restrooms?
The very first time we came in through the west entrance, through the parking lot, and then down.
Okay. And you stopped and stayed there?
Yes, we did, for about 5 minutes,
And what was your purpose?
waiting for Kelly and Morey.
Why would you assume that they would go to the lower parking lot instead of the upper parking lot?
I'd already texted Kelly and asked him.
So there should be a text between you and Kelly
Yes,
that says, we're using the lower parking lot?
ask him, are you meeting in the upper or lower?
Are you sure that's a text or is that a phone call?
That I'm not sure. I was thinking it was a text.
Then your testimony yesterday was that after about 5 minutes, you left the rest area.
Yes, we did.
You went back towards Swan Valley,
Yes, we did.
and you said that you went to someone's residence. Is that correct?
Excuse me?
You went to somebody's home. Is that
We
correct?
didn't go to somebody's home. We went up where the area they lived.
And who was that?
That would have been Alan Clark's place where Keegan was living with his daughter.
Keegan Mann?
Yes,
Why did you go to Keegan Mann's place?
because sometimes that's where Morey met people.
And how did you know that?
From Kelly, from me.
You'd met Morey up there at Keegan Mann's house before?
Yes, up on top of Clark Hill.
And to do what?
They buy drugs from me.
How far is it from the rest area to Keegan Mann's house?
It's not even a mile,
Okay.
maybe 2.
How long did you remain at Keegan Mann's house?
We didn't stay at the house. We just turned back around
And then, where did you go?
to the rest area.
Okay. What did you do there?
We pulled in and right up to the bathroom. I got out and used the restroom.
Okay. At that area, did you say, I ought to just shoot the son of a bitch?
No, I did not. I denied that.
You say that you got out and used the restroom.
Yes, I did.
All right. Can I have State's Exhibit 1 brought out? Please. May I have him approach that?
Hello, still ready, you want to work the lights and get your seconds.
Okay. best if you get on this side so that the jury isn't blocked. And may I approach that exhibit with him?
I don't want you asking questions.
Oh, okay.
You approach it.
On this,
I don't understand that there.
Okay, very well. And can you point where you parked, or I'm sorry, where the vehicle was parked when you went up to use the restroom?
Oh, excuse me. I do believe right here.
All right. And can you show the jury there, now, looks like there's some handicap stalls there. Did you park in the handicap stalls?
Right next to it, I do believe.
And can you show the jury where the men's restroom is?
Yes, the men's restroom is right in here.
Okay. So the restroom that is closest to that vehicle would have been the women's restroom?
I'm not sure.
Okay. You can have a seat.
Marshall picked that up.
And may I approach the So if you're parked in this area, when you exit the vehicle, you would have walked along the sidewalk here to get to the bathroom, is that correct?
I think it's right straight back.
You didn't walk around the restrooms, you walked to the men's bathroom?
Yes, I do believe so, yes.
You do believe so?
Yeah, I went to use the bathroom.
Okay, and you didn't go anywhere else?
I do not believe so, no.
Well, are you having trouble remembering, or is it a possibility you did something else?
No, I went to the bathroom.
You went to the bathroom. And if you go this way, do you know what's there? Have you been there before?
To the lookout, over?
You know there's a lookout there.
Yeah, I've been there before, yes.
And you can go either in this direction and go to the lookout. What can you see?
You can see the river and stuff down there, the canyon.
On the lower parking lot?
I can't recall.
Mm-hmm. Or what's this right here, if you recall?
That's the lookout, ain't it?
All right. So there's a lookout. Are there stairs that go down to the lower parking lot there?
No.
Okay. Can I have this handed to you?
What is it?
This is a copy of State's Exhibit number 6.
Any objections for any?
Thank you.
So as you look at that exhibit, you've seen that before, right?
Yes, I think the gentleman from my Department of Transportation had it.
Very well. And although, and he testified before that there aren't surveillance cameras down in the lower parking lot,
Yes,
that there's a number of surveillance cameras that are up around the restrooms, right?
yes, there is.
And those would have captured if you went to the restroom.
Yes, they would have.
And are you aware that there's actually a camera right at the door of the men's restroom?
I'm assuming, sure.
And that should, if you went to the men's restroom, that camera should have captured you, right?
Yes.
We can have, yeah, I'll deny that. The cameras would have also seen you walking towards the restroom as opposed to somewhere else, right?
Yes,
Okay. And is it still your testimony, sir, that you went to the bathroom?
yes,
How long were you gone?
however long it takes to use the bathroom.
Okay. How long do you think it took you to walk to the bathroom?
It probably took me a couple, 3 minutes to do the whole number.
All right. And on the video, there's timestamps. You can determine how long you were.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this witness being asked questions about the video that, you know, that he has no connection with the video. The caption him fine, but he can't answer questions about the video.
Questions, are you aware the court's gonna allow that, he can answer yes or no?
What was your question, sir?
Are you aware there were timestamps on those surveillance cameras?
Yes,
And so do you have any reason to believe that the timestamp that was captured on when you left and when you came back is inaccurate?
sure it would.
Okay, you're sure it's accurate?
Yes, sir.
And if I said that the time span there was about a minute, would you deny that?
I object to the whole line of questioning. The timestamps are what they are. I object to this line of questioning, asking him about technology of the timestamps that he had nothing to do with. And I think you get that in through his technology people.
Well, if that's what it says, yes.
And you admit that would be pretty fast to walk to the bathroom, use the bathroom, and come back.
Yeah, if there wasn't nobody in there.
And you remember Mr. McNamara from the ITE, right? From the Transportation Department who testified earlier?
Yes,
And would you be surprised, and he can be called as a witness this afternoon, if he says that you never entered the men's bathroom?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this. He doesn't know this Mr. McNamara. This is an improper line of questioning.
Allow it, the question is, would you be surprised if he said that? He can answer whatever he wants.
excuse me, sir. What was the question?
Would you be surprised if he said that the surveillance cameras show you never entered the restroom?
Yes, I would.
And so you're denying that what you actually did was go over, look at the overlook towards the lower parking lot or the stairs that lead down to the lower parking lot. You didn't do that. Is that
No, I
correct?
did not.
Now, you were there waiting until the first vehicle came in to go down into the lower parking lot, and that was Mr. Hinks, correct?
That's correct.
So at the time Mr. Hinks pulled in and drove down into the lower parking lot, had you seen any other vehicles go down into the lower parking lot?
Not that I recall, no.
Okay. You are denying that when you saw Mr. Hinks drive down into the lower parking lot, that you then, or in the Hamlin vehicle, then drove down there?
Yes, I'm denying that, yes.
Then, a few minutes later, then Mr. Pelton's car came to the rest area. You saw that, right?
Yes, correct.
You recognized his vehicle?
Yes, I did, sir.
And now, you say that you've made drug deals both at Keegan Van's house, correct?
That's correct.
And down in the lower parking lot at the rest area?
No, I've never done a deal down there.
All right. And this was your first time meeting up with either Hinks or Pelton in the lower parking lot?
Yes.
You were unfamiliar with that?
Yes, I was.
Did Mr. Hinks suggest to you that he had met with Mr. Pelton down there?
No.
When you had your phone call, did you ask him whether you were going to be in the upper or lower parking lot? Or did he tell you he was going to be in the lower parking lot?
I asked. It was upper or lower. I think I texted.
And why would you suspect that it would be down in the lower parking lot?
Because it was out of the way of everybody else up there using the bathroom and stuff.
And so you believe the reason for drug deals being done down in that lower parking lot is because it was isolated?
That's correct to assume, yes.
And then also it was dark because it's not well lit down there?
Yes, it was dusk, so it was starting to get dark.
So when you were at the upper parking lot, you knew that he was going to use the lower parking lot?
Yes, I did.
And why park in the upper parking lot?
We was already there at the upper.
Well, you were already there in the lower parking lot as well, right?
Yeah, but we waited 5 minutes. We were wanting to get to town.
So how long did it take after you, now, how did you recognize Mr. Pelton's car?
I know his car.
Okay? And how long did it take before you followed him down into the lower parking lot?
As soon as I seen his car.
Seconds,
Huh?
within seconds,
We started backing out, yes.
okay? And then when you got down to the lower parking lot, you said that you saw 2 vehicles down there.
Yes.
One vehicle was facing towards the sidewalk and the other vehicle was facing towards the parking lot. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You said that they were parked so close together that the doors could touch each other.
Excuse me?
You said that the 2 cars were parked close enough to each other that the doors could touch each other, right?
No, they parked close enough together, they could each reach out their windows and do their exchange.
All right. So you're saying about arm's length.
2 arms length,
All right.
from the distance between my hands and my butt when I bend down, because I know I was touching both cars.
So pretty close together
Yeah, close enough to reach across.
and just barely enough for you to walk in between them.
I wouldn't say barely enough. No, I walked.
All right. And as you walked up, or at what point did you see Mr. Pelton looking at you in the rearview mirror?
As soon as I got it at Gerald's car and closed the door, I walked towards him between the cars.
Okay. And at what point did you notice that Mr. Pelton was looking at you in the rearview mirror?
Right away.
Was that in the right rearview mirror or in the side mirror?
That'd be his side mirror on the door.
So he hadn't exited the vehicle
No, he had not.
and the door hadn't opened.
No, he had not.
And then at the time that you walked up, well, okay. So when you arrived, Mr. Hinks had already been there waiting for Mr. Pelton for a while. Is that correct?
A couple minutes.
Did he have his headlights still on?
No, he did not.
Is it your testimony that Mr. Hamlin's vehicle was pointed with its headlights in an eastern direction?
Yes, I am.
So back towards Swan Valley?
Yes.
Okay. And so his headlights were not pointed towards Mr. Pelton's car?
No, he was not.
And other than the brake lights or the tail lights and the headlights of Mr. Pelton's car, was there any other illumination?
It really wasn't that dark quite yet. It was just dusk.
So your testimony is that you could see his reflection in the side view mirror because it wasn't dark yet.
Yeah, I could see.
All right, and then you walked up to Mr. Pelton's car and you braced yourself against Mr. Hinks' car and then leaned onto his door, his driver's door.
Now, excuse me?
You walked up to Mr. Pelton's car, you braced yourself against Mr. Hinks' car, and then you leaned onto the door of Mr.
Yeah,
Hinks.
that's about how much room we had.
Okay,
You're looking at, of course,
Yes.
take a break sometime next 5 to 10 minutes, and you have it goes back 10 minutes.
let's do it now.
Ladies and gentlemen, jury, I'm going to excuse for a morning break. Remain on the record in State versus Larkin. The jury has now joined us. May I have agreement counsel members of the jury are present. Oh, members of the jury present, Mr. Brown?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, we'll continue the cross-examination. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
All right, so, on this particular night, this particular moment, are you saying that you were not under the influence of drugs?
Yes, I am.
And so, when Mr. Burton said that you were strung out, fucked up, and higher than a kite, you deny that?
I deny that.
And you weren't under the influence at all, is what your testimony is.
That's what I'm saying.
What was the type of gun that you brought to this situation?
9mm.
What was the brand?
I'm not quite sure.
Can you describe it?
Black, semi-automatic.
And how did it get loaded?
It was loaded when I bought it.
All right, and the night of the 12th, when you got out of the car, were you walking without assistance?
Excuse me?
Were you walking without assistance?
Without assistance.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean?
Didn't have a cane? Didn't have any kind of?
No, I did not.
Did you need one?
No, not really. I could get from A to B.
You didn't have O2 with you?
No, it was not an option.
Okay. And were you lighter then than you are now?
Was I lighter?
Mm.
Yes, I was.
How many pounds?
Actually about 75 pounds, 75, 80 pounds.
And when you looked over, you're saying it was still a little bit light. Did you observe whether there was any light inside the vehicle, Mr. Pelton's vehicle?
What do you say, at what time, Your Honor?
When you looked out of Mr. Hamlin's vehicle?
Now, excuse me, what was the question?
When you looked out of Mr. Hamlin's vehicle at Mr. Pelton's vehicle, did you see any light?
Did I see a light on in his vehicle?
Correct.
No, it wasn't that dark yet.
And then as you walked in between the vehicles, did you see anything inside Mr. Pelton's vehicle that caused you alarm?
No, I just was talking to him. I didn't look around in his vehicle.
Right. Now, you talked about an occasion where you were talking to Mr. Pelton and you talked about where he kept his gun.
Yes,
And you said he kept it near near the driver's seat.
yes, between the driver's seat and the center console.
And apparently he said that he wanted it there so he could push it down if he got pulled over by the police.
Yes.
Why would that be illegal?
What's that?
Why would that be
Objection to
illegal?
form of the
I'm
question.
not sure. That's just what he told
Hold
me.
on, hold on. I'm gonna allow the question and answer. You're fine, Mr. Smith. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Well, what's your understanding in Idaho? Is that illegal?
Excuse me? I have to start again. I'm not sure what you're saying.
What's your understanding in Idaho? Is that illegal?
To have a gun?
Yeah.
No.
All right. So before you stepped out of Mr. Hamlin's vehicle, then you had to get the gun from the floor of Mr. Hamlin's vehicle, right?
Yes, I did.
And you would have had to take it out of the holster.
Yes, I did.
So how did you do that?
I stepped out, reached down, got the gun, stepped out, and put it in my pants.
And so is there anything that would prevent Mr. Hamlin from being able to see you make those actions?
They were already on their phone, I'm sure. No, he wasn't paying that much attention. It was not that big a deal.
Well, if I'm understanding what Mr. Hamlin thought was going to happen, he thought you were going to confront him about the money, confront Mr. Pelton about the money you owe.
Yes, yes.
That would be a pretty big deal, wouldn't it?
No, not really. It was only $3,150.
Right? And so when you walked in between those vehicles, did you close the door behind you?
Yes, I did.
All right. And when you got out of the vehicle, did you have your back to Mr. Pelton and Mr. Hinks when you were putting the gun in your waist?
No, I got up with the door open and
They should have been able to see you doing something in your waistband?
Calls for speculation.
No, I'm asking if they could have seen.
could have, yes.
And so, neither of them, well, Mr. Pelton can't speak, but Mr. Hinks never saw you putting that gun into your waistband, apparently.
No.
Never reported that.
No.
Mr. Hamlin and Mr. Burton both testified they didn't know you had the gun.
That's correct.
But all three of them could have seen you with the gun.
Yes, I'm sure. Could you see me stick it in my waist? Or
Right.
see me stick something?
So how close were you to the back of Mr. Pelton's car when you got out?
I was, we were almost parked on the grass. So Gerald's side had been on the grass. He could have stepped right out, maybe a step onto the grass. So I had to come across the parking lot. I'd say 6 steps.
Okay. As then, you covered that distance. Did you see any kind of movement?
Did I what?
See any kind of movement between Mr. Hinks and Mr. Pelton?
No, not then, no.
Now, about how long were you conversing with Mr. Pelton before you shot him?
Just enough to go through what I explained that was said. So, okay. 30 seconds,
About 30 seconds.
45 seconds, I'm not quite sure. You'd have to time me, saying what I said, but it was not long.
Was not long. All right. At this time, Your Honor, I'd like some help. We're going to try to establish some distances here. So I'd like the assistance of Detective Fielding
Distances of what?
between the two vehicles. So what I intend to do is have him demonstrate how far the distance was between the two cars.
Okay.
So we're gonna have Detective Fielding come up, and we're gonna have Detective Graham assist. What I'd like to do is have these two references brought up. Will you take that paper? Okay, those two references.
What's your car?
Yeah.
You know, the court's not gonna allow, the court's gonna allow it for general, questioning, but I'm not gonna allow a specific distance because there's no way to recreate the exact distance.
Well, we could,
Unless you have the car and 2 cars here today. I mean, that's,
we
so, you have the 2 cars
Yeah.
here in the courtroom today.
We're not in the courtroom, but our plan is to establish a range. So,
Which is fine. The court's not gonna allow a exact measurement with the tape.
fair enough. But what we're gonna do is we'll get that where he thinks about where it is, and then we'll be able to establish the general range.
No, the court's not gonna allow the tape measure. So you can allow the general range for demonstrative purposes,
Okay, we need that
not
second.
with the tape measure. The court's gonna allow this because the defendant didn't similar demonstration yesterday, but I'm not gonna allow this specific.
All right. Well, next building. All right, what I'd like to have is, you'll hold this, and we're going to put it to its sideways to the, you'll come on the other side, please. And then you on the other side there, I'll leave you on the other side there. Okay, Mr. Pelton, can you come down and demonstrate?
Mr. Pelton's not here.
I'm sorry, Mr. Larkin, can you come down?
Okay, we have to switch around, please.
Okay.
Yes,
You want, sir?
Like so.
yes, this would be Kelly Hicks, that would be
Hold on, one of you talk at a time and into a microphone.
this way, sir. This way. Excuse me, this way. This would be Kelly Hinks. This would be Morey's car. Excuse me, guys. Okay. And this would be Morey's vehicle. Right here.
Do you think that's pretty close to how far apart the vehicles were?
Yes, it is, because they pass back and forth.
Can we sidebar here? You can return to this. Can you guys stay where you are just for a second?
You can go back.
I won't do that. Just- All right. Now, I'm going to,
Are you gonna ask any questions about that, Mr. Neal, or?
I'm gonna keep them there, yes, I'm gonna ask some questions. So, at the time that you saw Mr. Pelton and you thought he had a gun, can you tell us how close this door was to that,
Right up against Kelly Hinks,
all the way across,
all the way across.
okay? Now, we're going to have the door here, but I want them to be able to see this. If we move this down then, initially, you were here talking to him, right? Talking to Mr. Pelton.
Yes. Well, Kelly was here and Pelton was kind of like we're,
Kelly's behind me, I'm talking to Mr. Pelton.
he's off to my right, yes.
Neal, can you pull that mic a little closer to you? You have Dr. Graham hold it.
All right. And then you say that you took 2 steps back, you counted out,
Yes.
1, 2.
Yes.
Okay, that would have been this direction.
Yes.
And then you spun.
That's when I heard the door.
Come on down and let's have you demonstrate.
Okay. Here. Okay, Morey's here. Sits back in his seat. This is the edge of his door. Kelly Haynes, come back right here, please. Is right there. He's sitting back in his seat. Okay, I'm talking to Morey like this. I turned, took 1, 2. Morey said something about, I'm afraid of you, old man. I flipped him off, and then about right here, the door swings open and slams against Kelly's rig. I heard gravel. as I was-
Hold on, slow down. Let's get your oxygen close to you.
I heard gravel. And seen the light, okay, the door was wide open, so it was like this, yes,
You put where you want.
okay? But this ain't quite as long as a door, you know what I mean?
Just take your time and put your oxygen. I don't want, you just take your time.
Okay, excuse me, gentlemen. Okay, the door hit right here on Kelly's vehicle. I was already right here. I turned, heard the gravel, and seen light from Morey's car. I came around like this, seen his face, his face was enraged. You can see his eyes, you can see spittle in his face. He was coming at me. And then I seen right here, as he got out, okay, he was right here, and I could see him, just like this, with a gun. I had something shiny and something black in his hand, right here. And this is when I was about right here, and I turned and I shot.
All right. Okay, edge of the door,
Yes,
back door,
yes,
truck.
yes.
Put yourself in position.
Kelly's rig is
Okay.
right here. So more or less in front of Kelly's rig.
Very well. And then let's have Detective Fielding assume his,
Oh, excuse me.
position him where he is supposed to be.
Okay,
Where's his face?
his face. Okay, this is just where I have to, excuse me for a second. I'll show you. Okay, where you sitting? Here. But he came out like this because I heard this, and he looked at me, and I'm pretty sure he was having this leg come out, and then I could see his hand coming around.
Okay, stay right there.
Okay.
You mind about where you are?
Right there, sir.
A little further.
Back maybe just a little bit, that's the end of Kelly's vehicle. Yes,
And so when you shot Mr. Pelton,
yes,
it would have been him outside the car like that,
just like this, sir.
right? You didn't shoot this part of the car.
I didn't shoot that car, no.
No, he was outside the car when you shot.
His head when he was shooting at me was just the doorway right here, just right there.
Shot right there,
Yes.
and your other hand would have been where?
Right here by his door, coming around.
And his forearm, right where it is,
I think it was like this, sir.
a little bit further.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not for exact, but yes, sir.
Very well.
Okay, thank you.
Return to his seat, Mr. Neal.
Yes. You can set those back up. So your testimony is that when you first approached, you had no suspicion that you had a gun.
No, sir.
Ask for speculation.
Ask the question again.
I'll rephrase. You didn't see any indication that he was afraid you had a gun.
I didn't hear you, sir.
When you first approached Mr. Pelton, you didn't have any indication that he was scared that you had a gun, correct?
He always has a gun.
You didn't show any, Mr. Pelton didn't have show any indication that he was afraid that you had a gun.
No,
And it's your testimony that the gun, maybe I can have you stand up for the jury.
yes, sir.
And I understand now, at the time, you had a different physique, right? You were 75 pounds less,
Yes, sir.
and you said that you had a corduroy shirt on, right?
Yes, sir.
Was that buttoned up?
No, it was not.
So it was open like this.
Yes.
Show the jury where the gun was.
The gun was right here. Stuck in my pants.
And you did that so that you could cross draw and shoot?
I guess that's what you'd say.
Well, reach across your body, grab the handle.
Yes.
The handle was pointing,
To-
the handle, the grip was
Yes.
this direction,
Yes, sir.
barrel down,
Yes, sir.
tucked into a belt.
Yeah, my pants.
Well, I know there were pants there. Did you have a belt on?
I'm quite sure. I'm not sure.
Okay, maybe it was, and how heavy was this gun?
It wasn't very heavy.
Okay, and you don't know the
It was
type-
not.
You don't know, the type of gun it was.
I'm not sure, no.
And you heard testimony that it's consistent with a high point. Do you know what a high point is?
I have no idea what a high point is.
And you don't know what the weight of a high point is.
No, I do not, sir.
You have to see. And at some point then, while you were talking to him, you say the shirt somehow opened up.
Yes, when he was asking me if I had, read his emails.
All right. And at that point, he confronted you about the firearm.
Yes, he did.
Okay. Up to that point, was the conversation normal?
No, it wasn't normal from the start.
Mr. Hinks, you heard his testimony, said, if I had to pick between Morey and Randy, who started the aggressive action? And his response was Randy. Do you remember that testimony?
I don't, sir, no.
Okay. And when you were describing this yesterday, he said something about, did you get my emails? And at that point, you confronted him and said, you don't even know what my email address is.
Yes, I did.
And at what point did it become more heated?
It was heated from the very start.
And at that point, were you looking into his eyes?
Yes, I was.
And was that when you were saying it looked crazed?
He was high as a kite, yes.
Well, that wasn't my question. You said that his eyes looked full of rage. Is that when it was full of rage?
When he came out of the car and was coming at me, yes.
Okay. And when did you see the white spittle around his mouth?
When he came out of the car and was coming at me.
You didn't see it before?
No,
Okay. Well, when he was coming around, so he had a full beard and a mustache, right?
no, he had a goatee right here.
I'm sorry. He had a goatee and a mustache, right?
No, just a goatee.
I see. And so you saw this despite that facial hair?
Yes, I did.
White spittle.
White spittle right here.
And then you say that something happened after you said, you don't even know what my email address is. Something happened to escalate things, right?
To escalate it, what do you mean by that, sir?
Well, something changed the tenor from you don't have my email to the FU started going, right?
No, that's when he said, oh, you brought a gun.
So if the conversation, it was that brief before he recognized you had a gun,
Yes.
almost immediately.
Yeah, right after I showed up, yes.
And so you no sooner said you don't have my email address that he recognized that you had a gun on your
Yes, just put my hands on his window and the shirt opened up.
but both of your hands were where he could see you.
Yes, sir.
Did he reach for a gun?
Did he?
Yes. Okay. And did he ask you, what are you gonna do, shoot me?
No, he did not.
He never said that.
No, he never did. Kelly said, Kelly's words was, put that thing away.
And you remember those, let me ask you before you move on. You remember those words today just as well as you've repeated them multiple times now.
Yes,
Put that thing away.
yes. He said, around,
Right.
put it away.
Put that away.
Yes.
Well, where was it that you would need to put it away?
Kelly could not see. Kelly was back here, Morey was right here, and Kelly will even tell you that he couldn't even see Morey.
Right.
So that's why I turned around and showed him that I had no gun in my hand.
It was on your waist.
It was what?
It was on your waist.
It was in my waist, yes.
Yeah. So you're saying Kelly Heaps behind you said, put that away, even though he couldn't see that you had it.
No, he was told by what Morey said, oh, you brought a gun.
Okay,
Kelly goes, oh, hell no. We ain't doing that shit. Put that shit away.
okay. And so at that point, did you?
Did I what?
Did you
Asked
go,
and answered, Your Honor.
I'm gonna allow it, go ahead, Mr.
did you go put the gun away?
No, I showed him I didn't have a gun
But
in my
you,
hand.
you did have a gun.
Yes.
And
Your Honor,
Kelly,
he's badgering the witness. He's answered this many times. We
I'm
move
gonna
on.
allow it, go ahead, Mr.
but you did have a gun that you could put away, right?
I didn't take it that way, no, sir.
All right. But you certainly didn't have it in your hand. That's your testimony.
That is my testimony, yes, sir.
Tell me about your arm back then in May of 2022.
My what?
Your right arm.
What about it?
What was the condition of your right arm?
Well, I've had it operated on 8 times. It was folded back, never broke a bone in it, but there's the ligaments and all the tendons and stuff. And I'm just barely now getting that figured, but I can't. When I go to shake and stuff, I gotta go like that and grab somebody's hand. I can squeeze, but I can't open them 2 fingers.
And that was the condition of your right hand on May 12, 2022.
Yeah, it was even worse than it is now. Like I'm saying, I'm starting to get that finger opening.
I need to interrupt, the mic's not working, we're not picking up Mr. Larkin.
Hello?
It's not, for some reason, it's become disconnected. Let's swap those mics out. You're fine, it hasn't. For some reason, this is just not.
They can't do the green button.
Do you say something to just make sure? We're fine, let's point that one away. Go ahead,
Hello? Hello?
go ahead, Mr. Neal, sorry about that.
All right, and I believe that the record should reflect that the defendant held up his hands. 2 of his fingers were in towards his palm, 2 fingers kind of stuck are kind of out.
Yeah.
And that was the nature of the way you could grasp onto things.
Yes.
It was difficult to grip things with your right hand.
Yes.
And that's what you used to draw the gun and point it at Mr. Pelton?
Yes.
All right. After Mr. Hinks had put that away and you turned to show him your hands, then were you scared that Mr. Hamlin was gonna draw a gun behind your back?
Mr. Jackson, I don't know what Mr. Hamlin has to do with any of this.
Oh, I'll rephrase. You turned, you're talking to Mr. Hinks. Were you afraid that Mr. Pelton was gonna draw the gun that you thought he always carried and shoot you in the back?
No, the conversation wasn't to that point, no.
Well, and then what point did he say, I'm not afraid of you?
When I turned around, after I said that about Amber, and turned and was walking away, I said, I ain't afraid of you, old man.
Okay, let's talk about that. So after you showed Mr. Hinks your hands, then you turned back to Mr. Pelton.
Yes.
And what did he say to you at that point?
I put my hands down on the door. I said, yes, I brought a gun. I understand you have everybody whacked out up and down Star Valley. They're shooting one another, and you're right amongst the middle of them.
What did he say to that?
You.
All right. And you could see where his hands were?
I did not.
But you weren't afraid he was gonna draw his gun?
No, we was that close, I wasn't too afraid of it, no.
And then, you said in response to him, what did you say?
I told him, you.
All right. How far away are you from each other?
Excuse me. That's Morey sitting in the car.
Face to face.
Yeah, really, I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
What's the record?
Just right here,
The
sir.
white water bottle,
Yes, you know, just sitting back in the car to,
that's all.
And Mr. Pelton at that point would have been turned to the left?
no, he was looking right here.
He
So,
was looking ahead, he wasn't looking at you?
he was, no, it'd be slightly at me, right here's the door. He wasn't doing this, no, he was not.
He wasn't looking at you?
Yes, he was looking at me, but he did not have his head cranked.
Okay, so he had his whole body cranked?
No, he was like this,
Okay, just like that.
it's just like this, talking to me.
And you would have been slightly above him?
Slightly above him?
Yeah.
Yeah, standing on the side, I'd be whole window, yes,
And then you would have been slightly to the left?
slightly to the left. No, Morey sits back in his car, so I'm more towards the front of the car,
Your left.
my left, yes,
So you would have been in a direction that you were looking at Morey Pelton,
yes,
his face would have been looking at you,
yes,
and that would have been a diagonal from left to right, correct?
that's correct,
And from above to below.
that's correct.
And, so the FUs went back and forth, then what?
Well, after that FU, I asked him when he was gonna pay me,
Right?
and Morey says, I'll pay you when I pay you. And that's when he started changing his whole mood and everything else.
And when you say he was, well,
And,
wasn't he, full of rage from the beginning?
no, he built up to that.
Okay?
And I said, well, why would I be any different than any other son of a bitch you've ever known? And
Okay, and what was his response?
he said,
All right, and what did you say in response?
I said,
All right, and you just gestured with your hand. What was that gesture?
it's flipping him off.
Okay, and then what happened?
And then I went to go and I said, turned back and I said, this right here is exactly why Amber dumped your lying, cheating, scandalous ass.
Okay, and then what did he say?
He didn't say nothing. I got up, took a step, 1, 2, and then he said, I ain't afraid of you, old man. And the door swung open, hit Kelly's vehicle, and I heard that crunch of gravel.
Mr. Larkin, if you were walking away, why would Mr. Pelton be afraid of you?
Objection. This calls for speculation.
I missed a statement, the way it's out.
I'm asking you, given the situation, if your back was to Mr. Pelton, why would you be any threat to him at all?
It was not a threat to Pelton.
And
Pelton did not like me. He hated me.
sure, but that would make no sense, right? I'm not afraid of you. You're walking away.
Objection. He's calling for Morey Pelton's state of mind from this witness.
I'm asking him to explain the circumstances of the situation.
He's asking.
I'm just stating the
All right. This is not a difficult question for you to explain to the jury. When you were walking away, your back is to Mr. Pelton,
Yes,
and you're moving away from him, right?
yes.
You should have been no danger to him at all, right?
There wasn't it wasn't about being in danger to Morey Pelton. Morey Pelton was raged and was coming at me.
Well, but the words you said he said was, I'm not afraid of you.
I'm not afraid of you, old man.
I'm not afraid of you, old man.
Yes,
How did that make you feel?
I was just walking away. That's why I flipped him off.
Okay. And then, in addition, he said something about, I'm not gonna pay you.
He
There's
said that,
nothing you can do about it,
Yeah,
something like
he's-
that?
he said that earlier, yes.
And how did that make you feel?
At the time, I already knew I was out $3,150.
And the reason that you knew that is because there's no way for you, there was no recourse for you, right?
What do you mean?
You couldn't go to small claims court over this, right?
No,
You couldn't call the police,
no, not really.
say he ripped me off when we were doing he was buying drugs and he owed me an ounce of meth.
I did this to stop the animosity he had against me over his girlfriend.
Well, and you did that by confronting him over what he owed you.
I wanted to look him in the eye. He only had to come talk to me. I didn't give a shit if it was a year later, as long as he made arrangements and paid.
But your testimony was that you did it because you wanted to lessen the animosity, but that's not true, is it? It was,
Excuse me?
your animosity was building over the weeks that he didn't pay you back the money he owed you, right?
Well, matter of fact, the last text I got from him, I kind of laughed. He wasn't gonna go down south to get my money until he gathered up some more money, because he wasn't just gonna go down for money. And I looked at that and I thought, my God, look at this.
And if you weren't angry about that, you just wanted to mend fences.
No, I did not want to mend fences. The old story, you want somebody to stay away from you, loan them $100.
And you wanted Mr. Pelton to be able to come back and feel comfortable around you?
No, I didn't want him around me at all by then.
Okay, then why go and mend fences? Isn't that what you just said you were doing?
I did not say nothing about mending fences.
All right, help us understand what you were saying. You said you wanted to diminish the animosity between you and Mr. Pelton, right?
That's when we started this loan,
Okay,
because Keegan Mann said that he was pissed off at me again because he thought I set his old girlfriend up with a new boyfriend. I had nothing to do with that whatsoever. I told Keegan Mann, I said, tell Morey to come talk to me. Morey came talk to me. And he was so down, he said, I'm down. The girl drove me right to the very bottom. I said, well, what the hell? I said, what will it take? He says, I need to come up. I said, what would it take to come up? He says, $4,000. I said, how long would you need $4,000, Morey? He said, all I need is a month. I said, what do I get out of it? He goes, I'll give you a free ounce and I'll have you paid back in a month. In 3 weeks, he came back and gave me $850. And then that was it.
and your testimony to the jury is that didn't frustrate you.
It, sure, it frustrated me, but what it really did was kind of showed me everybody told me he wasn't gonna pay me back.
So when you went to confront him that night, it had nothing to do with trying to mend fences or to,
No, I didn't go to mend fences or nothing. I wanted him to look at me in the eye and tell me he was not gonna pay me back like everybody else was telling me.
say,
But then I didn't want him to kick my ass at the same time.
all right, and so the right hand that had something shiny and you said silver and you said
Kind of
black.
shiny, silver and black. I see.
And you saw some kind of shine glint off of this object?
Excuse me?
Well, you said it was shiny, so did you see some kind of light glint off of the object?
Yes, it's kind of like your watch just did with the light.
Where did the light come from?
I'm sure it was a dome light.
So you saw a glint from his dome light off of some object that was in his right hand. It was outside the door, right?
His hand was, yes, right there on the door. Yes,
And that item, where did that item go?
I don't know, sir.
Okay. You told Kelly Hinks that you thought he had a gun. When did you tell him that?
That night when we went to my house, he followed me to my house.
And at the point that you told him that, did you still think that he had a gun?
Yes, I did.
Then why would you use the words, I thought he had a gun, instead of he
No.
had a gun?
I looked at him, I said, I seen he had a gun, Kelly. That's why I shot him.
Okay. Now, in his testimony, Mr. Hinks said, you said you thought he saw a gun.
Excuse me?
You thought he saw a
Kelly's testimony
gun.
was,
Grand jury testimony.
Your Honor, is there a question here?
I'm gonna sustain that, you need to ask a question.
Okay. Is that true? Is that true that you told him, I thought I had a gun, as opposed to, I seen he had a gun?
no, I'm sure I said I'd seen he had a gun.
All right. If,
Or he had a gun.
yeah, if you thought he had a gun and if you had fired in self-defense, wouldn't it have been important to secure that firearm for evidence in your defense?
No. When I did that, I was completely, shit, I was in shock.
Right. But you had just, when you pulled the trigger, you were convinced that that item in his hand was a gun, right?
Yes,
And that was the fear, not that he didn't have a gun and he might beat you up. It was when you pulled the trigger, you, in your mind, was completely convinced he's got a gun and that gun is a deadly threat.
yes, I did.
And then you shot him
Yes.
and you don't know where the object went.
No, I do not, sir.
And you didn't look for the object.
No, I did not, sir.
But you did testify that you saw Kelly get all the way out of the car at that point, right?
Kelly never got out of the car.
Right. Keep doing that. Morey got out of the car at that point, right? Stood completely up.
Yes,
Your Honor misstates his testimony. He's shown the jury exactly what his testimony is.
Your Honor?
Hold on. I'm gonna allow the question, and I'm also gonna allow the answer. He said yes.
Okay. He was standing outside of the car after you shot him.
yes.
Where were his hands?
When he stood up, he did this number, and this hand went on top of his car window. He has the windows open, and he looked like he was getting back in his car. He
Okay.
came back around, looked at me, and had his hands like this, and fell right to the brake.
Sure. In fact, you actually testified earlier or yesterday, that you could see his fists ball up.
Yes, when he turned around, after it looked like he was getting in his car, and he turned around, yes, his fist was balled up.
Clearly nothing in his hands.
No, clearly nothing in his hands.
So when you talked to Kelly Hinks, you would have known he didn't have a gun, right?
Excuse me?
When you talked to Kelly Hinks later that night, you would have known that he didn't have a gun, right?
No, when he turned around and had his fists up, I had no idea where it went. I had no idea nothing. I could just see him falling.
When he turned, was there a time period you couldn't see his hand, his right hand?
When he turned, no, I couldn't see his hand. I could see his left hand because it was on top of the window.
And then he
Window
started turning back towards you.
Yes, he did.
Why didn't you shoot him again?
I couldn't have anyway. The gun was hanging on my shirt sleeve.
The gun got caught up in your shirt sleeve. That's
Yes.
not the question. Why didn't you try to shoot him again?
He did answer the question, Your Honor.
I'm gonna allow.
Why didn't you try to shoot him again? If you thought he had a gun in his right hand and he was turning back towards you.
I was backing up. I didn't,
You weren't gonna be able to back up faster than a bullet.
well, shit, by the time I seen him come around, he had his fist doubled up.
So now your testimony is that you saw, as he was turning around, at one point, that he didn't have something in his fist, right?
Yes, when he fell on the ground, he was just like
He was
this.
unarmed.
Yes,
But when he was turning, you couldn't see his hand.
when he was getting out of the car, I could
Yes.
see his hand, yes.
Okay, so the reason you didn't shoot him again is because you could see he was unarmed.
I could see he was coming around with his fist, yes.
All right. And at that point, then you realized you had shot an unarmed person, right?
No, I did not.
Okay. And after he fell on the ground, all four, between Kelly Hinks, Gerald Hamlin, William Burton, and you, all four of you failed to notify anybody about the shooting. Is that correct?
Yes,
Now, you're saying that it was because you were freaked out. Is that right?
yes. I
But,
don't know about freaked out, but
well, tell me the term. You use the term.
I was in shock.
You were in shock. But at some point, as you were playing this through in your mind, you must have realized, hey, wait a minute, I did that in self-defense, right?
Yes,
And that would have been the time to call the police.
yes.
And you didn't.
No, I did not.
And the other three individuals, who have all, or two of them have testified, one is dead. Those other individuals wouldn't have that same fear that you had because they didn't shoot Mr. Pelton, did they?
No, they did not.
And they didn't contact the police.
No, they did not.
And how many times did you, yesterday you said something that was kind of interesting. You said that you never saw Mr. Burton again.
No, I did not.
Did you communicate with them after that?
No, I did not.
Your testimony is that you never texted or made a phone call to Billy Burton after that night.
No, not to my knowledge, no.
Well, it would have to be to your knowledge, right? You're the one who was actually making the phone call.
No, I'd have to say no because he didn't even come finish my kitchen or nothing. I left.
Okay, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Your testimony, I think yesterday, had something to do with when he fell down, you knew that he had passed away. Is that, am I remembering that right?
Yes, I do.
So you thought there was no possibility he was alive.
No,
And what made you think that?
because of the way he hit. He fell straight down, the way he hit. And then the blood started pooling around. And I could tell.
So you stayed there after the shooting, after he had fallen long enough to see the pool of blood coming out from under him.
Yes,
And what were you doing when that was happening?
and just staring at him.
You just stood there and watched.
I just stood there and stared, yes.
And then what did you do?
I turned around and walked to Gerald's car.
Okay. And then tell me how you and Mr. Hamlin left that parking lot. Did you drive calmly or did he drive calmly and slowly and cautiously?
No, not really. We got in, we finished the loop and headed up. Okay, when I first got in, Gerald says, "What the hell?" And I said, "Shut up. I don't want to talk about it. Just drive." And we went up and headed to Swan Valley.
And that wasn't in a slow pace at all, was it?
No, that was not in a slow pace at all, sir.
And then did you see Mr. Hinks come out behind you?
Yes, when I was getting in Gerald's car, I said, "Come on, Kelly, get the fuck out of here."
So was it your understanding that Mr. Hinks was remaining there?
No, you could see on his face that he was in shock also. After it happened, he looked at me and said, "Oh, fuck, Randy."
Right. That wasn't Mr. Pelton who said that.
No, that was Kelly.
All right. And so, Kelly, you instructed Kelly that let's get out of here? And that's because?
We were all gonna get in trouble.
For what?
I would have ended up right here.
Yeah, but what would Kelly Hinks have been in trouble for?
Probably nothing.
And Mr. Hamlin would have been in trouble.
No.
And
And Billy,
Mr. Burton would have been in trouble.
no.
What did you mean then? We were all gonna get in trouble?
That's how we all felt.
Well, you can't tell how the other three felt, and they described how they felt. What made you think that all four of you were going to be in trouble?
I really didn't think of it that way.
And what made you tell Mr. Hinks to get out of there?
I'm not sure.
The four of you actually did have a plan for that night, right?
The four of us?
Yes. Mr. Hinks, Mr. Hamlin, Mr. Burton, and you.
No, Mr. Hinks wasn't going to town with me, Billy, and Gerald.
No, he was setting up a meet between Mr. Pelton and him in an isolated, dimly lit area of a remote parking lot that doesn't have surveillance cameras, so that you could come and confront Mr. Pelton. Isn't that correct?
That is not correct.
Isn't it true that when you got there, you went down, you checked out the area, you were seeing if there were any surveillance cameras that would bother you, that they would, the lights would be affecting what you planned on doing? Isn't that what you were doing for 5 minutes while you were down in that lower parking lot?
That is not correct.
And then once you got up to the upper parking lot, isn't it true? You got out of your vehicle and you went out to a vantage point to see the location where you were going to confront Mr. Pelton about the money he owed you.
That is not correct.
Isn't it true that when you went down there, you put a gun in your waistband to go confront Mr. Pelton about the money he owed you?
That is correct.
And then the plan was that if he didn't give it to you, that you were going to force him to give that money to you by showing the gun. Isn't that the plan?
That was not the plan. That is incorrect.
And then he laughed when you brought out the gun, didn't he?
No, that is
He said,
not correct.
I'm not afraid of you, old man.
That is not correct.
Didn't he say, what are you going to do? Shoot me?
That is not correct.
He called your bluff, Mr. Larkin. And then the choice,
Argument, Your Honor.
and then the choice was to either follow through or to walk away like a little punk. Isn't that true?
No, little punk. No, that is not true.
And you shot him while he was sitting in the car, didn't you?
No, I did not.
Your own witness, your own expert witness. You sat here while your own expert witness said that Mr. Pelton was not outside of the car.
That he was stepping out and coming out of the car.
The expert witness said he couldn't have been past the threshold of the door because the blood didn't land outside the threshold of the door. You remember her
Your Honor,
testifying to that, right?
This is improper argument. The jury saw what Kim Duddy demonstrated, and I object to counsel's characterization, what I would say mischaracterization of what she demonstrated right in front of everybody.
She demonstrated right in front of everybody that the blood source could not have been past the threshold because the blood didn't land on the outside of the car. She said it had to be back where the seatbelt and the seat was.
I was stating the objection. You can ask this line of question, not that specific comparing testimony.
And the fact is, for you to create a wound into Mr. Pelton in the way that it entered his body, you couldn't have been 2 steps away over by the front of Mr. Hink's car. Isn't that correct?
Argument, Your Honor. This is a question.
Now, what was the question?
In order for you to cause the wound that happened when you shot Mr. Pelton, you couldn't have been 2 steps close to the front of Mr. Hink's car. You couldn't have been there and hit him in the neck. Isn't that true?
That is not true.
So you're saying that he was hit outside the car, correct?
As he was coming out of the car, yes,
And that his arm was over here by the door.
his arm was by the door.
The arm,
Your Honor, this has
Go ahead.
been asked and answered about umpteen times. I'd object.
What about,
the arm that she says caused the blood stain onto the steering wheel and the dash of the car.
Yes.
That arm couldn't have been pointed toward the door, right?
The hand was at the door,
Mm-hmm.
and he was coming out.
I had you demonstrate this right in front of the jury, Mr. Larkin.
Yes, you did.
And you put your hand around in front of you and you showed where the gun was in his hand.
Yes.
And then I walked over and I pointed to your forearm. You remember that?
Yes, I did.
And it was in that direction, towards the door, not towards the car.
Yes.
Isn't that what you demonstrated?
Yes.
But you recognize that couldn't be true. Not even by the testimony of your own expert witness, don't you?
No.
You understand that couldn't have happened and for her analysis to be correct, don't you?
I don't understand what you're asking.
In order for her analysis to be correct, you're now understanding that his arm couldn't have been where you said it was, right?
I'm not the expert. I'm just telling you what I seen, and she's the one that
Right.
did that.
And those two things are inconsistent. You can tell that. You were here for that testimony.
I'm not qualified to even say that.
Well, and the truth is in the scientific evidence, right? You can say whatever you want about what happened. You can change your story, right?
Your Honor, this
No,
is.
I was there.
hold on.
This is argument and compound questions and
I'll withdraw that question.
Okay.
But you will admit,
Hold on. The court's gonna also order that the answer be stricken and the jury not to consider it. Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
but you will admit that there is no way that the scientific evidence is lying, right?
No, she was an expert.
And so was Mr. Nodell, right?
From what I understand, yes.
And all of that blood that happened inside the car itself, that was from one single wound. You didn't shoot him twice, right?
That's right.
And the story that you just told the jury is inconsistent with that evidence, isn't it?
When he turned around, he could have put blood in the car.
It's inconsistent with what they said, which is he was not outside of the car. Both of them said that.
Your Honor, I'm going to object because the two experts had different versions of what happened, and this is improper cross-examination, Your Honor.
Sustain the objection at this point, Mr. Miller.
So, after you got out onto the highway, after this shooting, the testimony was that you guys didn't talk at all.
No,
And that was for a drive from Wayne Clark rest area to the Swan Valley where your residence is.
yes.
And what is that distance?
It's probably 20 miles, maybe 18, 15.
All right. If you had just been involved in this self-defense circumstance, have you ever shot a man in self-defense before?
No, hell no, I haven't.
And why wouldn't you want the advice of the people around you?
I didn't want to talk about it. I was just,
But that would have worn off. At some point, you want to talk about it, right?
no, I didn't talk to anyone about it.
Well, I know that's what happened, but at some point, the shock wears off and you realize you've got to do something about a very serious legal issue, right?
I wasn't worried about the legal issue. I was worried about the Mexican mafia issue.
I see. Now, when you were in the hospital, why didn't you tell your daughter about the fact that Morey had a gun?
What's that, sir?
When you were in the hospital and you were talking about the mistake you made, that you shot a person, that was her testimony.
I don't recall any of that. I just came out of, I was in ICU with the thing in my, they didn't think I'd make it. So I have no idea what was said between me and Chelsea.
Let me understand the circumstances surrounding this suicide attempt. Where were you when you attempted suicide?
In Pocatello, Idaho.
And where? In a home? In your car?
I was in my vehicle.
And where was your vehicle?
My vehicle was going by the past Flying Y and headed to Simplots, to my mom and dad's old place.
And you suddenly had the urge to commit suicide?
No, I decided I was going to do it before then.
All right, but you suddenly decide, I'm going to act, I'm going to commit suicide.
Yes.
And what did you do? Did you pull over the side of the road?
I pulled up on the exit and swallowed some morphine that was left over for my mom when I was taking care of her, and had some dog tranquilizers.
Dog tranquilizers?
Yes, sir.
Did you tell the hospital folks that it was horse tranquilizers?
No, I'm sure I said dog tranquilizers.
I see. And when you pulled over to the side of the road, was anybody else there?
No.
You're just on the side of the road.
Yes.
And how did you get discovered?
Excuse me?
Well, somebody took you to the hospital, right?
No, I drove to the hospital.
Okay. So you pulled over, you took the drugs, and then you drove out yourself up to the hospital.
I sat there for a little while, and I thought, well, this is a mistake. I started thinking about my family.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand the course of events here. Were you stopped by the police that same day?
Yes, I was.
Where did that happen?
That happened in Chubbuck.
So you got stopped by the police, and then when did this attempted suicide happen?
After that,
Did you think that the police were on to you about the shooting?
I wasn't worried about the police on to me. I knew they was, but I was worried about the Mexican mafia.
Okay. Right. So, if you knew the police were investigating, and how did you know that?
Well, there's cameras and everything else up there. I knew.
But you were in a vehicle they couldn't identify, right? Because you'd gone in a vehicle that had just come to the state the day of, and it had Washington plates on it.
No, it had my plates from a white Suburban, and this was a black Suburban, and I was headed to American Falls. I figured I would do all the paperwork and stuff there.
That's not my question. I'm talking about when you were there on May 12th, you said they would have had the cameras and everything. But just coincidentally, the vehicle that was there had nothing to do with you, right?
I'm not following what you're asking.
Mr. Hamlin's vehicle had nothing to do with you, right?
With me.
Yeah. Couldn't be linked back to you.
I don't understand what you're trying to say.
There was nothing in the registration on the license plate or the description of that vehicle that would have linked it back to Randy Larkin, right?
Not on the registration and stuff, the identification, no.
You've never been involved with that vehicle before, right?
That is correct.
Just coincidentally, what was caught on the cameras wouldn't have linked back to you at all, right?
No.
So why would you think that the cops were on to you?
God, I don't know how to answer that.
All right.
Back on the record, in Bonneville County Case 22-6371, State of Idaho versus Randy Michael Larkin. Mr. Larkin is present along with counsel. State of Idaho is present, represented by counsel. All members of the jury appear to be present. Mr. Neal, kind of stipulation of that?
Yes,
Mr. Brown?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Larkin, you're back on the witness stand. If we're continuing the cross-examination, if you can take a seat up there, remind you you're still under oath.
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Neal, it's my understanding you're going to play it or ask questions first.
we're gonna ask questions during.
Once again, for the record, this is Exhibit
25.
25, which is the video from Rocky Mountain Information Network, which is kind of because there's two parts. Is this the cameras or the?
This includes the cameras, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we'll just, we'll start going through the timeline here, and I may stop and ask a question or two, so. But this slide here, this is all accurate as far as, you're not denying any of the truthfulness of this, right?
Excuse me, I don't,
Well, take a second, look at the association chart, where people were seated, what car they were in. You're not denying any of that, right?
no, sir.
All right, you're also not denying that there was a light colored SUV that you were riding in, a dark colored SUV that Mr. Hinks was riding in, and a light colored sedan that Mr. Pelton was driving. That's all accurate?
Correct.
Okay, you're not denying that you entered into the east entrance of the rest area from Highway 26 from the direction of Idaho Falls.
No, sir.
You're not denying that that occurred about 9:18 according to the timestamps on the survey.
Foundation here, Your Honor, if the witness was looking at his watch. He's asking about what time, and I think he needs to establish that the witness would have known what particular time things are happening.
Is there any reason for you to dispute that this happened about 9:18?
No, sir.
And you testified previously that you came in through the west entrance, but that's inaccurate, right? We just saw you come in through the east entrance.
I can't hear you, sir.
You testified earlier that you came in through the east entrance and drove through the parking lots, but that's not accurate, right?
The west entrance.
Okay. You've just seen the surveillance videos which showed that you went through the entrance, which was closest to Swan Valley, the east entrance.
No, we went across the parking lot.
Let's just take a look.
Your Honor, could the counsel make it clear which entrance he's talking about is the west entrance and which entrance he's talking about is the east entrance?
I think that's fair. You need to be careful because you asked him, you crossed that up in one of your questions.
All right. So this is the one closest to Idaho Falls, correct?
Correct.
And that would be the west entrance.
Correct.
This one here is the one closest to Swan Valley,
Correct,
the east entrance.
correct.
You say you entered the west entrance and went across the parking lot, correct?
I believe so, yes.
That would be your vehicle there. And that would be the east entrance.
Okay, I was under the understanding we came in from the west.
Sure.
So I thought we came into the west entrance, but we came from the west.
But you can see that you entered the east entrance,
Yes, I can see that now, yes,
and then you immediately drove down to the lower parking lot.
correct.
And you don't dispute that you spent about 5 minutes down there.
No, sir, that's just approximate. Excuse me. I'm not real sure how long, but approximately, yes.
After you'd spent that time in the lower parking lot, you don't dispute that you then exited what would be the east entrance, the one closest to Swan Valley, and turned towards Swan Valley.
That'd be correct, yes.
And you say this is where you went up to the house belonging to Mr. Mann?
Alan Clark, yeah, top of Clark Mountain, or Clark Hill.
Okay, you don't dispute that you then returned to the rest area, entering through the east entrance,
Yes,
about 9:28, to where the restrooms are.
yes,
No reason to dispute
dispute it, no, sir.
And that's the vehicle you were riding in, parking at that time frame in the parking space closest to the handicap stalls?
Yes, it is.
You don't dispute this is you getting out of the Hamlin's vehicle?
That would be me, sir.
You don't dispute that the restrooms are in the eastern direction?
About, I don't know, not even a 45 from there, right here.
But you agree you weren't heading that direction?
Yeah, I was headed there.
Okay. Now that's showing at about 9:29 and 14 seconds. And who's that?
That would would apparently be me, sir.
That's how you were dressed?
That looks like it, yes.
You don't dispute that about 5 minutes later, then Mr. Hinks came in, he drove through the west entrance, the one closest to Idaho Falls, but he was coming from Swan Valley, right?
Correct.
You don't dispute that he drove behind your car, the car you were in,
No, I don't dispute that.
and when I refer to your car, I don't mean to say you possess it, but the car that you were in.
Yes, I understand this.
So in the future, if I ask about your car, I just didn't want that to be confusing.
Yes, sir.
You testified that you did not go down to see Mr. Hinks in the lower parking lot?
No, we did not.
Okay. You can see from this camera that your vehicle is backing out of the spot now and driving down to the lower parking lot?
No.
So if I'm understanding, you're disputing that you left the upper lot and drove down.
Yes, there should be a better shot at the dumpster to show that we didn't go down.
You dispute that this is your vehicle coming past the dumpster and parking back in that same stall?
It appears so, yes.
So you actually did go down into the lower parking lot?
I do not believe we did.
You dispute about 5 minutes later that this car pulled in?
Yes, sir.
You dispute that?
No, I don't.
That was Mr. Pelton's car coming in? the
Yes, it
west
is.
entrance- I mean, east entrance?
Yes,
You saw him pull in?
yes,
You recognized the vehicle?
yes.
Then within seconds, then that's you backing out in Hamlin's vehicle?
It appears so, yes.
That's your vehicle going by the dumpsters?
Yes.
you admit that, Mr. Pelton is only a few seconds ahead of you here?
Yes, sir.
So as he was parking, then your headlights would have been shining on him about this point?
Yes,
Is that a fairly accurate depiction of where the two vehicles were?
yes.
Your Honor, if I may, we've stipulated to the admission of this vehicle, or this recreation, we've not stipulated to the accuracy of the position of the vehicles or the accuracy of the speed at which the vehicles were traveling. But we have stipulated that the jury could see this so they get an idea of what the place looked like and relative times that the vehicles arrived.
That's all we're showing it for. But we did ask the witness just now if that was accurate, and he said it was.
We'll allow both your answer and the statement of clarification.
Was you, as far as the directions they was headed, I'm not saying the closeness, them two look like there's a little further away.
You think they were closer?
Yes. Yeah, the distance between the cars wasn't right, no.
And this is you leaving about 3 minutes later,
Apparently so, yes.
and you admit that the stop line right here for that entrance,
Excuse me?
the stop line and the center line for that entrance is right here.
Yes, I do believe so.
Just gonna play that one more time. Maybe. Pretty close call with that other vehicle.
Excuse me?
You remember that being a pretty close call with that other vehicle?
Form of the question, Your Honor.
I don't remember, let's see this again, I didn't. I don't remember that, no, sir.
About 15 seconds later, Mr. Hinks hightailing it.
Objection to the form of the question.
Sustained.
Well, I'll say it differently then. He comes up, he's in the opposing lane of travel there.
Excuse me?
When Mr. Hinks comes up, he's in the opposing lane of travel, pulls out just before another vehicle comes up.
I still can't understand what you're saying, sir.
So when he comes up, instead of coming over here to the proper lane, he goes to the opposing
You're right,
lane.
Your Honor, the video speaks for itself. This witness was not observing the vehicle. He was in the vehicle in front of us approximately 15 seconds, so he can't testify as to what the vehicle did. All we have is the video.
Well, I'll lay a foundation here. When you left the east entrance, were you watching to see what Mr. Hinks was doing?
No,
You didn't look back to see if he was behind you?
no, I did not.
I think we did ask about this, but you're saying that after that night, there was no texting or calling between you and William Burton?
I don't believe so, no.
So it would surprise you if your phone records showed several contacts after that?
If it's in my phone records, and, yeah, but I don't recollect it now.
And the same with Mr. Hamlin, right?
Yes,
And with Mr. Ames.
and with Mr. Hinks, yes.
After you arrived back in Swan Valley, where did you go?
Excuse me,
Where did you go?
to my house.
Okay. Did you receive phone calls there?
I don't recollect.
Okay. How long were you at your house?
I want to say half hour probably.
Where did you go after that?
I went up to Palisades Creek.
And did you stop by the covered wagon?
No, I went to the Covered Wagon after I came back.
What time did you get up to the Palisades Creek cabin?
I'm not sure.
You remember talking to your daughter?
I don't know.
And you don't have any idea how long you stayed up at the Palisades Creek cabin?
No, not very long. No, sir.
And then you drove back to where?
Drove back to my house and then went to the bar because the bartender was closing up.
Okay, so in the state of shock that you were in, though, you were able to go back and help the bartender close the covered wagon that night?
No, I just walked in and told Misty, I said, just leave the money somewhere in the 12-pack in the back cooler.
The 12-pack?
In a 12-pack in the back cooler. I
And
said, I'm done. And I told Kurt Jackson's wife that I was done.
so let me understand that. So Kurt Jackson is one of the owners of the covered wagon,
Yes.
and his wife was there when you walked in?
No,
Okay. Explain your answer. Then you said you told Kurt Jackson's wife you were done.
the trailer is right there behind the bar in an RV park.
All right, so you left the covered wagon, you went out to Kurt Jackson's trailer or home or whatever it is,
Yes,
and Kurt wasn't there, but your wife was there.
yes.
Did you talk to Kurt Jackson by phone that night?
I do not believe so.
All right. But you wouldn't dispute your phone records?
No, I wouldn't dispute phone records at all.
Okay. And then after you got to Kurt Jackson's, did you walk by the dumpsters first, or did you just go there and tell them you were quitting?
No, I dumped the gun before I even told Misty to close up, and then I walked over and told Kurt's wife that I ain't gonna be here tomorrow.
Okay. So you came back, you spent a few minutes up at the residence up in Palisades. You came back to the bar. The first thing you did was get rid of your gun, correct?
Yes,
And you're not sure what kind of a gun that was,
it was a 9mm.
but you're not sure what the brand was.
No.
That's an answer,
No.
Your Honor.
Well, and this was actually the gun that you had purchased from Jeff Britton,
Yes, it is.
and it was the gun that Jeff Britton wanted to buy back.
Asked and answered, Your
He
Honor.
would have when he got on his feet. It was his dad's.
And so it meant something to him.
Yes, it did.
And so why would you throw that into the dumpster?
Because I just shot somebody with it.
Okay, so you didn't want the police to discover that gun?
No,
All right. And then after you quit, what was your plan?
I didn't have a plan.
Well, you had a plan to quit working there,
Yeah, I knew I wasn't gonna be in the next day.
okay? And then you started talking with your daughter about perhaps leaving the area?
About what?
Leaving the area, Swan Valley?
I don't recall that, no.
Were you planning to move to Hawaii?
No, sir.
You didn't mention that to anybody.
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so if somebody said that you told them you were making plans to move to Hawaii, you would deny that?
I wouldn't say move. I might have been going to Hawaii.
Okay. So after you quit, you were going to use some savings or something like that, and you were gonna go to Hawaii?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Well, do you recall your plans about Hawaii?
No, I do not.
Were you planning on leaving Swan Valley?
You mean it's moving?
Yes.
At that point, I didn't know what I was doing, sir.
Okay, the next couple of days you thought about it? Were you planning on moving out
No,
of
I
here?
had no idea what I was doing right up past me committing suicide.
And how much longer was that?
That was 2 to 3 weeks.
So you're saying that your attempt to commit suicide was within May?
No, that was in June, but June 8th.
June 8th is when you tried to commit suicide.
Yes,
Okay, and just to make it clear on that day, so you got pulled over by the police in Chubbuck,
yes,
and you had these tranquilizers in your car.
yes.
And what else did you say you ingested?
Morphine,
So you had morphine, which is a controlled substance, right?
yes.
And did you ingest those when you saw the police coming up to your car?
No, I did not.
And what happened with the police contact?
I just bought the vehicle a few days. I had a license plate from another Suburban on it, and I was going to Power County, because that's where all my vehicles is registered through. I was gonna go there and get it registered.
You finished that traffic stop, did you get a ticket?
No, oh, yes, I did, for no insurance, but I had my insurance company on the phone and said, just bring it over, they take care of it.
All right, and that was in Chubbuck.
Yes, it was,
And then you left Chubbuck,
yes.
and what direction did you go?
I hit the highway and I turned right, so I was going west to Simplots,
All right,
right there at that exit.
how far did you make it?
I made it to the exit.
Okay, tell me a distance.
A mile?
And so after about a mile, then you decided to pull over.
I hit the ditch and was right above my parents' place.
Okay, after a mile, you decided to pull over,
Yes,
and that's when you decided to commit suicide.
yes, right up when I was on the ditch by my parents' house.
And you decided to do that by ingesting drugs?
Yes,
All right. Did you ingest all of the drugs that were in your car?
yes, I did.
Every single bit of it?
Of the tranquilizer and the morphine, yes.
No other drugs in your car?
There was cocaine and a little bit of meth.
All right. And then at some point then, you were feeling the effects of all this stuff? The tranquilizers and the morphine?
By the time I was headed to the hospital, yes.
Okay, and so what made you change your mind?
I thought, why am I doing all this to my kids and grandkids?
And then you didn't call 911 then, right?
No,
You drove yourself up to the hospital.
yes, I did.
And that's where you went into the emergency room and told them that you had just ingested a bunch of
Yeah, showed them,
tranquilizers and morphine.
yeah, showed them where it was.
Yeah, just a minute. Okay. When you went up to the Palisades residence, did you meet up with Kelly Hinks?
Yes, I did.
And did you offer him an ounce of drugs in order to keep quiet about what had happened?
No, I did not.
Did you offer him an ounce of drugs for any reason?
I gave him one when we went back home. He was up there washing the blood off the side of his truck.
And so you felt you should give him some drugs because you got blood on his truck?
No. He still wanted one, and I could give a shit less about it, and I had some that Gerald just brought me, so I gave him the whole package.
Okay, and the amount that you got from Gerald was 2 ounces.
Yes,
And so you said that when he brought you the 2 ounces, he gave it to you at your house, right?
did what, sir?
When Gerald brought you the 2 ounces of drugs, he gave it to you at your house, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you said that you went into your house and you threw it in a drawer or something.
Threw it in my desk, yes.
And then after you had come back to the house, within minutes of shooting Mr. Pelton, then you went in and retrieved those 2 ounces of drugs?
After, when I went up to the ranch, Kelly was washing the blood off his car, and he looked at me and said, I still ain't got no dope. I said, stop at the house, I'll give you some there.
And so on your way back, you stopped at the covered wagon.
On the way back, I went to my house first.
Okay. You went to your house first so that you could get the 2 ounces of drugs you were going to give to Kelly Hinks.
I handed it to him right there. He followed me to my house.
And then you went into the covered wagon
10-4, that's it.
and disposed of the gun.
Yes.
How would you have the frame of mind to dispose of the gun and you were so in shock that you couldn't make any other decisions?
Sir, I couldn't tell you that.
And so then Mr. Hinks told you that he had to go to the grand jury, right?
No,
He never told you he was going to the grand jury,
no, he did not.
but you had a discussion with him about what had happened at the rest area, right?
I never had a discussion with him, Billy Buckskin, or Gerald about what went on there.
Okay, so the only time that you told him that you thought you saw a gun was?
In my driveway, right afterwards.
Okay, so the earlier testimony, I thought you said that at the shooting itself.
No, I did not. I told you I did that right there in my driveway.
Okay,
Buckskin went one way, Gerald went another, and in come Kelly.
okay,
That's when we did that conversation.
all right, let me make sure I understand what happened. When you, Mr. Hamlin and Mr. Burton got back to Swan Valley, the first place you went to was your residence.
That's right.
And Mr. Hinks followed you in.
That's right.
And then that's where you told Mr. Hinks about you thought he had a gun.
That's right.
But you didn't tell Mr. Burton or Mr. Hamlin.
No, I did not.
And you didn't walk in and get the drugs and take them back to Kelly.
No, I did not.
And then when Hamlin did Mr. Burton ride away with Mr. Hamlin?
No. Mr. Hamlin went one way, headed towards Wyoming, and Billy went towards Irwin.
And you got into Mr. Hamlin's vehicle before he left, or as you were getting out, and you took the holster and the gun?
Yes, I grabbed everything.
Okay, so you had the frame of mind to take the gun out of Mr. Hamlin's car.
I don't understand the frame of mind, but I just took it out of his car.
Yeah, it was a deliberate action. You weren't sleepwalking. It was something you decided to do. You reached in, I'm gonna take the gun, I'm gonna take the holster, right?
Yes, I wasn't gonna leave it in his car, no.
Okay. And where did you take those things? The holster and the gun?
I put them in the trunk of the car again.
Then back in the trunk of your car.
Yes,
And then when Mr. Hamlin left, Mr. Burton left, then you took that car.
Kelly pulled in then.
Okay. You had a discussion with Mr. Hinks. He left.
Yes,
You got into your car
yes.
and you drove the car up to the other place of the house.
Your Honor, I'm just going to object that the council keeps going over and over and over and beating this, again and again. We've already asked these questions over and over. Ask we move on to something else.
He's clarifying because there's been kind of some new information, but I agree, let's move this along.
All right, and so the gun was in the trunk when you went up there to the Palisades.
Yes, it was.
And then when you got down to the covered wagon, you got it out of the trunk. Did you throw away the holster as well?
I threw away everything.
Okay. And that was because you didn't want anyone to find you with it?
Sir, I don't know the frame of mind I was in. I couldn't rationally tell you anything.
I see. Oh. All right, there was one part of it that I guess we had a little bit of difficulty understanding. So when you first shot the gun, you said that it got hung up somehow on your shirt?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you tell us about that? Which shirt?
Excuse me?
Which shirt?
What shirt?
Which shirt?
It was the corduroy shirt I had on.
And how was it hung up on your corduroy shirt?
I have no clue. It was on my sleeve.
You don't, okay. And when you pulled it off of the shirt, what did you use to get it off of the shirt?
I just jerked my sleeve out.
Okay, and it was holding on to your shirt somehow?
Yes, it was a hole in my shirt.
And that was your right sleeve?
Yes, Tim, that was this one right here.
Okay, was it over long, your shirt came down longer over your hand or anything?
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
And so you think in the operation of the gun, it caught your sleeve?
I have no idea, yes. That's where the gun was on my sleeve.
That's when you climbed into Mr. Hamlin's car?
Yes, I did.
That's all the question. Well, so after you had time to settle down, weeks go by, you had contact with the other 3 people that were there, correct?
No,
You don't remember having contact.
no, I do not.
How about when Mr. Hamlin came back from Arizona?
Yes, I did. He came back and was gathering up his stuff. The original reason he came, he had to go out and get my trailer. He stayed with me, I remember, at a motel that I had in Idaho Falls, waiting for my daughter to come. And he was recovering his stuff from Keegan's house. I was trying to make arrangements for people that bought my parents' place, because he had automobiles there.
All right. Mr. Larkin, you made no discussion with Mr. Hamlin at all about what he had seen or not seen
Not a word of it. We didn't discuss a word of it.
on the trip from the rest area back to your residence, right?
That's correct.
And you wouldn't have known one way or another what Mr. Hamlin had seen.
No, no, I would not have.
So when he came back a few days later, why didn't you ask him if he had seen what happened?
Because I didn't want to discuss it.
All right, as time went on and you knew that there was an investigation, in your words, you thought the cops were interested in you,
Mhm.
why didn't you reach out to Mr. Hamlin or Mr. Burton and ask them what they saw?
Because my attorney, Sean Anderson, told me not to contact anybody.
All right, when did you contact him?
After I got out of the hospital from trying to kill myself.
Up until the point of you attempting to kill yourself, why didn't you reach out to them to ask them what they saw?
Because I didn't want to talk about it.
And did you relay to your attorney that that would be a possible lead, that you could have, someone, a private investigator, someone reach out and talk to these 2 individuals about what they saw?
I don't understand what you're trying to ask me.
Did you pass on to anybody that they could reach out to Mr. Hamlin or to Mr. Burton and find out what they saw?
And the Bonneville County Sheriff's Department knew they could get hold of Sean Anderson and schedule an appointment to have an interview with me.
But my point is, why didn't you have somebody on your behalf reach out and find out if they could give back your story or not?
That, because my attorney said, don't talk to nobody. Anybody wants to talk to him, make an appointment.
Okay, and did law enforcement show up at the hospital?
I remember that, yes, they took me from there to, I think it was BHC, I think is what it's called, a behavioral psych ward.
The law enforcement took you there.
Yes,
And did you mention to them about this situation that occurred at the rest area?
I didn't say nothing to nobody.
Okay, and that was before you talked to Sean, right, your attorney?
Yes, that's correct. No, yes, that is correct, yes.
And, okay, you didn't mention anything to them about not only the incident, but perhaps they could go talk to a couple of witnesses that could back your story.
No, matter of fact, I think the girls already had Sean going because they had the girls had been talked to by the detectives. So they'd already had Sean lined up.
And the girls be your your daughters.
My daughter said it's correct.
All right. I think that's it.
Mr. Brown? Let's move
Don't
on.
redirect it. No.
Is there redirect? I couldn't hear you. Okay,
We're done.
all right, thank you. Maybe turn your seat, Mr. Larkin.
Thank you, sir.
Go down the stairs.